So tonight I'm welcoming Cameron Glasgow. Now, in a couple of my YouTube videos recently, I've invited people to come on and have a bit of a discussion about the things I've been saying. Cameron's taken the bait, if you like, or he's put himself forward to come along and discuss the content of one of the videos in particular. So that's really great. So welcome, Cameron.
Hello.
Okay, hope that you enjoy it. Now, Cameron's the first person to actually show up to do one of these. Earlier on the week, Lorraine Aitken said she was going to do one. It got to the stage, she didn't turn up. Then she sent a load of abusive emails and didn't do it. But Cameron is here, so that's great. Cameron's the convener of the West Lothian Greens. He's not here in that official capacity as a Green Party spokesman, but that he is involved in the Green Party. And the video in question here is the one I made called Humza Yousaf, Racism, Islam, the Truth. And Cameron emailed with a few points about the video. So that what we do is go through some of his charges, if you like. So Cameron's the prosecution. So we'll go through some of the things that he's accusing me of relating to that video, and then we'll have a little chat about them.
Okay.
And see where we get. So the first thing in your email is you said that you thought the video was hateful. Okay, tell me about why that was.
Yes. Right. So I've went through the video just sort of and hang on, got feedback from the video there. Right. So first of all, it's directed exactly at one member of a minority ethnic group, and there's no way that he can defend himself, obviously. And throughout the video, there's multiple times in which things I think are said which normalize the behavior, which in the video you show a clip of Humza Yousaf saying that he's being abused racially online, and a lot of the speech and things you've said in this video are actually normalizing this behavior. So things such as to quote here, but that's just the Twitter. There are some insulting and offensive people around, some pretty unpleasant characters. That's par for the course with Twitter. That sort of statement is normalizing racist abuse, especially Humza Yousaf, who recently showed 6,000 cases in one of the newspapers against him directly. That's sort of saying, oh, well, that just happens on Twitter because there's people on Twitter with different opinions.
Okay.
You're saying...
You can carry on. That's fine. You can carry on.
Yeah.
If we just could respond to some of those before I forget.
Yeah.
First of all, you said I was targeting one person. I don't really regard the Justice Minister as some sort of vulnerable character who shouldn't be, you call it attacked. I mean, in a political sense, yeah, it was an attack in a sense, in the political sense. So I don't think any claim that it's somehow unpleasant to target a video disagreeing with what Humza Yousaf says, because that's what it was doing. It wasn't talking to him, it was disagreeing with what he says. So I don't really see any contact, any particular problem with that. In terms of him being unable to defend himself, again, I don't see that. He's perfectly able to defend himself. The reason he doesn't defend himself, there's two reasons. One is he thinks it would benefit me more than it would benefit him. Another reason is maybe he just can't be bothered, got other things to do. And another reason might be that he maybe doesn't fancy his chances in the debate. But whatever reason, he could defend himself if he wanted to. Now, in my video, I started off by saying, Humza said that he gets called a Paki. And I said to that, that's just out of order. I'm really sorry to hear that happened. Now, in terms of the Twitter thing, now I did say about Twitter, as you just quoted me, I said there's a lot of unpleasantness and aggression, hostility, whatever, on Twitter. Now, I obviously wasn't condoning that at all. I was explicitly condemning it. So I was saying the racist comments are within the context of a social media platform where unpleasantness is very common. How is that condoning it?
Well, what you're saying is instead of you just sort of say that this is normal, this happens, and we should just accept it. Yes, you say this is wrong. However, without it's in your party policy that we should sort of just ignore this and let people hate speech on social media whenever they want, have no protections for victims of this hate speech. I'm pretty sure I read in your website that people should be open to ridicule people's beliefs, which,
Absolutely.
And yeah. I can understand criticizing or having comments on it, but ridiculing is very specific and very open to abuse, in which you could say, well, telling someone to go home is ridiculing. That sort of thing, that's ridiculous, I think, completely. That policy itself, I would say, is racist.
Oh, okay. So you said our policy is to ignore this sort of thing, which absolutely isn't our policy, to ignore racism. So I mean, you're agreeing that I'm condemning these racist comments.
I would say that you've seen the video, you are. But
sorry, go on.
Okay. But what you're saying overall is, and you say it later on, that this happens, you've experienced abuse on Twitter, so everyone experiences this abuse, so it's fine. That's essentially
I didn't say it's fine. I didn't say it's fine. I said exactly the opposite to that. So we're not saying ignore it. So this sort of behavior, this sort of language is not what we want at all. It's not what I engage in, and I hope other people wouldn't engage in it either. Now, Humza Yousaf's a public figure, so he's going to get more than his fair share of it. Now, some of what he might get might have a racial content to it as well. I admit that in the video, and I say, whether or not that means he gets more abuse than other people, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because we condemn it in any case. When you were saying we're against hate speech legislation, absolutely. You were saying that we think you should be free to ridicule other people's beliefs. Too right. If someone wants to mock and ridicule my beliefs, then they're absolutely at liberty to do so. They might do it in a way that's a bit unpleasant. I might feel that doesn't reflect well on their character, but certainly they should be free to do that. I mean, do you not think? I mean, what about if someone say calls the green watermelon?
I would say
that
in terms of political beliefs or beliefs that are not necessarily attached to your character and who you are, then yes. But something such as religion should be protected from ridicule. Yes, you can hold beliefs against it. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with holding beliefs against that. But directly having a go at someone because of their religion or because of their race or because of their culture, especially from minority groups, ridiculing it is completely wrong and would be racist.
I think you moved the goalpost slightly, talking about having a go at someone. That sounds a bit different than ridicule.
Right. Ridiculing, in the quote, ridiculing, you can't, that is very open. If that was in the law, ridiculing would be open and you would be able to get away with quite a lot, I imagine.
Well, you can at the moment. The hate speech legislation isn't actually here. So in terms of ridiculing, so if someone says to me as a Christian, you believe in a like fairy in the sky, an Iron Age, Bronze Age fairy in the sky or something, should that be illegal?
It would depend on the context and how they're putting it at you. If they're simply asking you, do you believe this? Yeah, then that's more of a question.
Obviously a mocking form of words, isn't it?
Yes. If someone was saying, you believe in this, that's ridiculous, why would you ever believe in that? Then yes, that's ridiculous. I don't think that should necessarily be, I wouldn't say illegal. I think it should be definitely, we should teach against it.
Right. Well, I think in an open democratic society, I mean, there are some views, I mean, I would say personally, I think are worthy of ridicule because they are so ridiculous that ridicule is the right response to them. And they might be beliefs that are quite, heartfelt beliefs of other people. But that's just something you have to live with. That's to do with being in an open and tolerant society. Is you just need to, to accept that's the way it's going to be. But would you really want a law against ridiculing religious beliefs?
Against religious beliefs, yes. Against ridiculing specifically, I have nothing wrong with criticizing and trying to come to some sort of understanding of them. But ridiculing specifically, that word is open to people seeing this as a free-for-all, you can have a go.
Okay, cartoons of Muhammad. Should they be illegal?
I would say probably. I would encourage against them because it would be extremely hateful and people would be offended by that.
That's a different question altogether. Should it be illegal?
I wouldn't say illegal, no.
It should be illegal to draw cartoons of Muhammad?
No, it should be legal. People have the right to do it, but people should be criticized for doing it.
Right. Okay. So what are we disagreeing on here?
I'm saying that ridiculing people's religious beliefs should be extremely criticized, and if that does become having a personal attack at because of that belief, then it should be illegal and action should be taken.
Well, what do you mean by personal attack? You mean directing the comments like face to face?
If it's in the comments and someone says something racially or is religiously abusive, as in they are having a go at that person's religion, then yes, they should be illegal.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, Muhammad is obviously not alive, so you can't have a go at him personally. However, I can totally see why a Muslim would be offended by that. It is against Muslim beliefs to draw pictures of Muhammad.
Okay. Well, we seem to have started with you saying we're against hate speech legislation, and that's really, really bad because that means we say we ignore those things. But I'm saying we don't ignore it. We don't approve of a lot of types of speech, but we don't think that these things should be illegal. And now you seem to have come around to saying that you don't think they should be illegal either. But in some cases, it should be legal. Can you give me an example?
I'm not saying
illegal to say.
Things that should be illegal to say are things which have derogatory terms in it. You said that word at the start of your video. I actually think that you shouldn't be saying that word even if you're just referencing it. Humza Yousaf says that in the video. That's the reference. We all know what word you're talking about. But if someone was to call him that should be illegal in my eyes.
So you think that, well, for people that haven't seen the video, so you think calling someone a Paki should be illegal? Right. Do you think that would help eliminate racism in Scotland?
It would certainly stop it a lot.
No, I don't think it would.
In what way, though? Because that word is directly used as a derogatory term to make people feel like they are a minority group. That word.
There are lots of derogatory terms that are used. I mean, I might get called, say, a Bible basher or something like that. I mean, should that be illegal?
Yes.
It should be illegal, really.
I don't know if it should be necessary. I don't know if it should necessarily be illegal, but there should be protections in the law that people who are victim of that sort of abuse should be able to protect themselves from that abuse.
But it's not abuse, though. It's just.
But it is abuse. Would you be offended if someone called you that?
Yeah. You can't, I don't think there should be a law that means you don't have the right to not be offended. Let's put it that way.
Like, for instance,
have the right to not be offended.
Like, for instance, I'm gay. If someone came up to me and said, "Oh, you're a fag," I would be definitely offended by that, and I would want a law there to protect me against that.
Right. I certainly wouldn't approve of anyone using that sort of language. If someone did this in a threatening and abusive manner, then being threatening and abusive is a crime in itself. You don't need the hate speech element to it. Just the content of what they're saying, I think bringing the law into that is unhelpful.
But it will encourage people not to do that. If you have laws there that say that this is wrong, obviously wrong, and we're adding this on top of your current charges, that will encourage people away from that already.
Okay, so if you have a law like that, if someone were to say, for example, that they think gay sex is a sin, and they say that to you, should that be illegal?
No, because that's an opinion.
Okay,
that is their opinion. That is not offensive. I would be annoyed by it. I would be angry by it, but I would be more than happy to explain to them why it's not, or why I believe it's not. But that is their opinion. If they use
stronger language?
If they use stronger language and say that
more flowery language. So.
If they say it's a sin, I'm going to hell, I should be hung for it, then yes. Definitely, I would say that is hate speech.
Right, hung for it. If there was an element of there actually some sort of threat within that,
then
I think it should be. Otherwise, I don't think so.
Okay,
no, it doesn't achieve what you want to achieve. So as soon as because what you're doing is you're setting yourself up as the judge of what people are allowed to say to you or not. And if you're setting yourself up in that way, you're going to be setting everyone up in the same way. So if you're creating this culture where things that someone deems on very subjective criteria to be abusive or offensive, whatever, then they go to the law and expect action to be taken. And that's just going to chill freedom of speech in this country massively. Freedom of speech is already hugely under attack in Scotland, and that would just ratchet it up a good few more notches.
I don't think freedom of speech is at all under attack in Scotland at the moment. I'd love to know why you think it is.
Okay, sure. I'll tell you my story. I've said that I think that children should be brought up by their mother and father, ideally. Okay, that's my belief. So that's in contrast to same-sex parents. I think that mum and a dad is the ideal situation. Okay, because I'm a registered teacher in Scotland. Because of that, the General Teaching Council for Scotland are sort of pursuing a case against me, and they might strike me off very soon. So whether they strike me off or not, this has been a long process that a lot of people would find very stressful and unpleasant. For expressing a view that's exactly the same as the view of the Pope, for example. So that's an example of the way freedom of speech is under attack. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think in the case of teachers are not there to express personal opinion. Teachers are there to teach.
This was outside school. This was completely outside any educational context.
If it's outside of educational context, if the people have signed up for that, then yes. However, I would say I'm against religious schooling because I think it's unfair.
Well, there's nothing to do with religious schooling. So do you think I should, like, my career should be dangling by a thread because I think children ideally...
If that was being taught to children against the curriculum, then yes.
But it wasn't in school. This is completely out of school.
As in, it was like a post on social media or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that it could be looked at, yes. I don't know the specific case, so obviously I wouldn't be able to say anything, but in certain circumstances, if you were to hold a racist view or something outside of
just stay on my case. So what do you say about my case? Assuming I've given you the full story, what do you think of that?
I'm not 100% sure, to be fair. I don't actually know because it's obviously.
So you're saying you don't think freedom of speech is under attack, and yet you're saying you're not sure whether or not someone's teaching career should be destroyed because they basically agree with the Pope about something. Now, if that's not an attack on freedom of speech, I mean, what is? I talk to so many people. The Scottish Family Party will often talk to people and say, no, I think you'd be a great candidate for the Scottish Family Party. And so often they say, I'd love to do it, but I can't. I work for the government. I work in a school. I do this, that, and the other. And so many people, if it's people who work, probably 2 out of 3 people say, no, there's a reason why it would be dangerous for me to stand up for what I believe in modern Scotland. I mean, probably from your perspective, you don't feel any threat to freedom of speech because everything you say is acceptable. Whereas what I believe from a sort of socially conservative perspective is not. You can lose your job. You can find, I mean, I've had scrapes with the police, Stonewall to try to get me fired, and all sorts of things. So probably you don't appreciate that. But from my side of things,
I appreciate that. A lot of what you've said will have been criticised, and a lot of people who I would disagree with would try and get you fired and try to take personal action against you. However, if that sort of view was to come in, I can see where they're coming from, in that you're a teacher, children need to be able to trust you, they need to be able to trust, the teaching council needs to be able to trust you not to almost brainwash children. I'm not saying that you are, I'm just saying that they need to have that trust there, that these views, I think it would be the same for a left-wing person. If it wouldn't. I mean, if you had a member of the Communist Party who was a teacher, I imagine it would be very similar in your case. I don't know any members of the Communist Party. I don't even know if they're still about. But if that was the same case, I imagine, and they expressed their same views in the same way, it would be the same.
No, it wouldn't. We don't just go to the Communist Party. Let's just say someone in the Green Party. Let's say they were very well known as promoting every policy on the green agenda very vociferously. Would any of that land them in hot water professionally? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
I don't think so necessarily, because a lot of our policies are not aimed at attacking people or attacking people's views. We try to avoid that entirely.
Yeah, so what you're saying is the Green Party's views, obviously, you could be a teacher or a doctor or anything like if you agree with the Green Party, but if you've got views like mine, then obviously you need to...
No, I'm not saying that it's anything to do with party politics. I'm saying that certain views are more controversial than others because of the way they are put forward and the way they affect people. If someone's insulted by someone's views, then yes, but that is their opinion. I'm not saying they don't have the right to have that opinion. I'm saying...
What standard is that, though? I mean, anyone can declare themselves insulted.
But obviously there's going to be certain cases. Like, for instance, the example I used earlier, if someone said that to me, I would be insulted. And I would have every right to be insulted. However, if you said that sort of thing to me, like about same-sex parents, I wouldn't be insulted by it. I wouldn't say it's insulting. I would say it's controversial. And I could see how some people could be insulted by it. But because I've ran for election, I've dealt with this sort of stuff before, I think I'm probably quite fine with that. Okay, not the idea of it, but...
Do you hold controversial views?
I would probably hold controversial views in your opinion, yes.
Well, it's not a matter of opinion. I mean, aren't all political views controversial? I suppose there is a band of ones that are not controversial, but a lot of political views are controversial.
Yes.
Aren't they? I mean, yes, the view shouldn't be allowed because it's controversial. I mean, that's a pretty low standard, isn't it?
No, if it's controversial because if it insults someone or because it's abusive of someone or it's trying to silence people, then yes.
Well, the silencing doesn't come from people with me. The silencing comes from the sort of left, liberal, progressive establishment. They're the people who are successfully silencing people and chilling debates.
Well, it's not killing debate. The fact that there is no debate, there's no debate on racism because everybody knows racism is bad. So why should we debate on it? It's the same with transgender issues, with LGBT issues. These things shouldn't be a debate.
But that's like me saying, for example, abortion is killing unborn children, so it shouldn't happen. It's wrong, so there should be no debate. I decree that there should be no debate on abortion because it's just wrong. How's that sound to you?
Right. I would say, however, you're a man, so what right should you have to say what rights women have?
Well, we could go on to that. I think that's a terrible argument. Well, we could go, but let's stick with the original. What do you think about me declaring what will be a debate and what won't be a debate? Surely that's not the way things work.
There literally should not be a debate on racism. If you're saying there should be a debate on racism, then you're accepting that you are being racist, essentially. You're saying that there's more than one view to hold on racism, and the only view that should be held on racism is that it's wrong.
I think there can be debates about racism. I think racism at its heart is an evil, but about how to understand it in response to it, I think there can be many debates. The other issues you try to lump into with it, like transgenderism, I mean, they're totally different. I mean, if you think that there shouldn't be debate allowed about transgenderism, I think that's a really extreme opinion, totalitarian even.
I don't see how it is. They're essentially the same thing. People are being discriminated against because of their characteristics, because of who they are, and because of who they want to be.
Right, that's your view. My view would be completely different. So you're not just saying, this is what I believe, you believe something different, let's debate it and fight it out. What you're saying is, this is what I believe, and you should be made to shut up.
I'm not saying you should be made to shut up. I'm saying that it would be extremely hateful that those opinions to be against racism, to be in favor of racism or to be against trans rights is extremely hateful, and they shouldn't exist.
Okay, I mean, we could go on. The trans thing's another issue. Let's stay with this video. So we've been talking about your charge of hateful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, did you want to just summarize your reasoning that the video communicated that I was being hateful?
Yeah, well, I said you're normalizing it, and you've said that the threat about his family being machine gunned is silly talk. But things like that we need to be taken serious. If someone's being threatened with their entire family being shot, that's the sort of thing that hate speech laws should be there to investigate. And
okay. The machine gunning one, I said it was probably silly talk. Unfortunately, as I said in the video, it's the way a lot of people talk. A lot of people talk in this ridiculous, oh, they should all be shot sort of way. Put them all up against the wall and machine gun them. I would never speak like that, and I think it's really stupid that people do that, and it's really unhelpful and dangerous, in fact. But often that's not actually serious. It's just the stupid way that people talk. And you said about normalizing. The fact that I said, you know, people being abusive and horrible on Twitter is normal. Now, when you say normalizing, that implies that I'm approving of it. It's like I could say, you know, it's quite normal in a society that people get murdered. I mean, it is. It happens in all societies. But that's not in any way saying, so therefore it's fine.
Well, instead of saying that this is normal, we should be saying that this is wrong. We shouldn't be acknowledging that this is normal.
Which is
and we should be talking. We should be talking about how to stop it, not going. It's just silly talk. People shouldn't talk like that.
That's absolutely what I did do. I did condemn it. I also talked about how to tackle it. That was the next point in the video.
Well, your next point in the video was the solutions of ignoring it, which is it's just not the answer. If someone was being physically abused, we wouldn't say, oh, just ignore it. We would say, we need to take action against this person.
That wasn't my total answer. I didn't say the solution to racism is to ignore it. The specific
in terms of Twitter racism, your answer was ignore it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a blanket, always ignore it. I said, sometimes I think the best thing to do is to just ignore it rather than trying to parade it around. Then I said, for example, if we're looking at education, the way to tackle racism in education is not particularly to teach about racism, but to teach virtues, character virtues, and to deal with racist incidents as they come up within that context. So rather than trying to have a special emphasis on all different sort of minority groups or whatever, and lots of bullying has nothing to do with being part of a minority, it's other things. So instead of trying to deal with the trigger for that particular type of bullying, just promote good character. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable.
I don't think in schools we should be teaching character traits. That is taking away people's individuality. We need to be teaching ideas, which then lead to people building their own characters and their own personality, leading to them becoming their own person.
Right. Right. I think you either misunderstanding what I said or we're disagreeing with each other. I think character traits should be promoted. For example, honesty, integrity, faithfulness, compassion, kindness.
I would say that character traits, we should say people should be nice, people should be accepting, but I don't think we should be almost forcing character traits on people. We should be teaching them ideas. We should say, this is how society thinks, then letting them become their own person.
Okay, so if they choose they're going to be dishonest, for example.
Well, I don't think someone chooses to be dishonest. I think they're taught into it. There'll be the ideas they are taught.
By who?
By teachers, or most likely by parents.
Teachers teaching dishonesty. Parents teaching dishonesty.
I think teachers would be unlikely to. It would be, in the case we were talking about earlier, if a teacher was to hold certain views and it did get into education, then it could seep into education of their children. I think especially in certain circumstances that happens. But parents are likely to teach their children what they believe. And if they are racist, they will teach their children to be racist.
Yeah, we're talking about character qualities. This is like honesty, integrity, faithfulness.
But children need to understand that their parents aren't always right, because their parents might hold views that are racist or homophobic, and we need to be able to teach children that these views are wrong. I wouldn't necessarily say we should have children out on the streets fighting against their parents. We should have the children accepting that these views are wrong and holding their own views.
So your view of education, so it's not so much we want to imbue particular character traits in children. The more important thing is we've got to teach children to see that their parents might be wrong. So we've got to plant it.
No, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing for education, it's educating children how to look after themselves and how to be able to live in society. But we need to be able to teach children that racism is wrong, that homophobia is wrong, that transphobia is wrong. We need to be able to teach children these things.
No, hang on a minute. I thought you didn't want to. So a character traits such as honesty, integrity, gratitude, compassion, these things, those things you say, oh, no. But then you've got to teach them that racism is wrong, homophobia is wrong. So it seems
that's not a character trait. That's not a character trait.
I mean, it sounds to me as though instead of wanting to promote universal human goodness, if you like, you want to promote more like the Green Party agenda.
It's not a Green Party agenda. It's simply equality and it's making everything equal for everybody instead of, for instance, sort of pushing more views towards having almost unconditional love towards people and to trusting everyone in your family or your teachers. It's about being able to become your own person.
Right. I think trusting family, respecting parents is a really good thing. Right. I think it's probably time to move on from that.
Okay.
In the video. Right. Islamophobic.
Yes.
Fire away.
Right, so you said that we shouldn't have sort of racism awareness weeks, as we just talked about in schools, but I think a lot of that about racism awareness weeks is about fighting racist behaviour and teaching children that children are likely to say something, probably at some point in their education, when they're very young, that would be offensive if they said it as an adult. So we're being able to teach them that these are not nice, this is wrong, that we shouldn't be saying these things. And because children can't obviously understand the sociological and psychological implications of comments like that are. You said that we're hanging pictures of idols up in classrooms. Not one classroom I've ever been in my life has had a picture of a ethnic minority idol. Instead, we've had pictures of Churchill up on the walls. I would say that is more hateful than having, even if we did have Martin Luther King on the walls or whatever, having Churchill, who's a genocidal maniac, on the walls is disgusting, to be fair. We actually campaigned in my history class to have him removed.
Okay, who would you have preferred to win the Second World War? The Nazis or the Allies?
No, I'm not obviously the Allies. However,
why did you want the Allies to win?
Because they were fighting against fascism.
Okay, so the person who leads the fight against fascism, is that not worthy of some...
I would recognise that he led the country well. However, his actions in British India at the time were extremely disgusting. He led a genocide against the people of India and Bangladesh. His views on the Indian people, which is quoted massively, if you go and look for it, is disgusting. He's become almost an icon for the far right in this country. And that's not taught in schools. We're not taught that in schools. Instead, we're taught that he's glorious, he did nothing wrong. And that we need to teach against that. We need to teach that, yes, he won he took part in winning World War II. It was the soldiers on the ground that won it, let's be real. It was not just Britain that won. The Soviets were involved. The Americans were involved. We need to teach this. We're told that Britain's amazing. Britain did this. Britain did that. So we need to be able to teach that Churchill was a horrible person. Yes, he won the war, but he was horrible.
We're going off on a tangent there. We could go down that one, but I haven't heard any argument at all justifying your charge of Islamophobic.
Well, I think Islamophobia comes under sort of the same vein as you were coming with racism, and that these comments that he received over 6,000, and you said that you actually ask a rhetorical question, is this racist or Islamophobic? And you say, I don't know. It could be. Well, yes, of course it is. If he's got 6,000 comments or emails or whatever it is of online abuse, then yes, of course it's Islamophobic. And you then go into it saying that this organization that he was a part of so almost grew him into the politician he is today.
Just deal with the one first. You can come on to that in a minute.
Okay.
So I said with the comments, I can't remember exactly what they're referring to. I mean, in the newspaper, for example, he reported some bad things people had said. For example, the machine gunning thing.
Yes.
And he was saying this is evidence of racism or Islamophobia or whatever.
Yes.
And with that sort of thing, I'm saying, well, I'm not sure it is. I think that happens to public figures in general. So I wasn't absolutely convinced that that particular case or some others they might have been citing were actually Islamophobic or racist. That's reasonable, isn't it?
Right. Well, he's got 6,000 cases of it. Of course they are Islamophobic and racist. If he feels they are Islamophobic and racist, and he can go, look at this case, this is Islamophobic and racist, then yes, it's Islamophobic and racist.
Well, I'll say no, he can't just decide. If I were to go on Twitter and say, Hamza Yousaf, you've got big ears or something, I mean, he can't decide that that's Islamophobic and racist if he wants to. There's got to be actually a reason.
If it's attacking his ethnicity or his religion, which a lot of those comments were, then yes, it's racist.
But I was talking about some that he'd cited that weren't referencing that. And I was just saying about those ones that it wasn't clear to me whether they were or not. And also in the video, I do say, I do concede that there may well, I haven't seen them, but there may well have been lots of ones that were racist to about Islam as well. But on the other hand, I think he might class some things as Islamophobic that maybe I would put under the category of critical of Islam as well.
Yes, but you would also say that you're allowed to ridicule Islam. So I think a lot of the time we need to have mutual ground on this.
Right. Okay, so you went on to, what I was saying about the Scottish Islamic Foundation.
Yeah, so obviously I don't know much about the Islamic Foundation. I did some look into it, and I couldn't find too much about it. But a lot of that, you were talking about how the Scottish government funded them. It's not necessarily they're grooming people to become SNP MSPs. They are simply trying to promote minority ethnic groups.
What's the difference?
Well, it's the Scottish government, not the SNP.
With the SNP government. I mean, the similar one was the...
Yes, but But the Scottish government and the SNP are two different establishments, technically. The SNP make... Yes, but they are. That's how it works. That's how legally it works. So you're saying that any action the government makes is made for the SNP. It's not necessarily...
Yeah, the SNP abuses its power. So another example would be, what's it called, the Scottish Asian Women's something or other, that they created, when they funded, it's been set up. Tasmina Ahmed Sheikh was given a prominent position within that community with SNP funding. Then the next thing you know, she's the SNP candidate, and she's there. Same with Hamza Yousaf. Hang on. When the SNP was pouring money into the Scottish Islamic Foundation, a lot of people were saying, look, this is the SNP's way of trying to buy the Muslim vote and bring people to prominence within the community. And that's what happened to Hamza Yousaf. I mean, he had the golden ticket. Being a Muslim has been a massive bonus for him in his career. In fact, I would say if he wasn't a Muslim, he wouldn't be where he is today as Justice Secretary.
I don't think that's necessarily true. For what? You keep saying...
Let's leave that then. Let's leave it. It doesn't matter whether you think it's true or not. What you're trying to do is present evidence why I am Islamophobic.
Yes, by saying that he's a Muslim, therefore he's better than everyone else because he's been given a golden ticket because of his religion. Mm-hmm. But that's not true at all. We've just talked about thousands and thousands of cases.
You may think it's not true, but why is it Islamophobic to believe that that's the case?
Because you're saying that this is the case because he's a Muslim, because of Islam.
Yeah, but why is that Islamophobic? Why does that show?
Because you've been prejudiced against Islam and a Muslim in particular.
How is it prejudiced to say I can see the way that being a Muslim has benefited his career?
Because you're just taking away his individual character, the work he's put in, the passion he's put into the Scottish National Party or the Islamic Foundation, and saying that none of that matters. He's a Muslim, therefore he gets through. You're saying you're ignoring everything else and focusing on one thing.
You've turned what I said into a much more extreme version of it. I didn't say you hadn't.
But that is what you're saying.
No, it isn't. What I
You're
said
saying
was,
that no matter how much work he had put in, because he's got this magic golden ticket, that's why he's an MSP now.
no, I didn't say no matter the work he put in. I said that his Muslim badge has benefited his career. Now, okay, we can discuss whether that's true or not, but you need to explain to me why. I mean, I look at things, that's what I see. So why is it Islamophobic to come to that conclusion?
Because you're being prejudiced against Muslims.
How is it prejudiced? What am I
Because you're saying that this golden ticket is why he is in this position.
Why is it prejudiced to believe that that's benefited his career?
How do you know it's benefited his career? Have you been with him the entire way? You don't.
That's my
you can't say
that's my interpretation of
yes, in which case you can say you believe that
conclusion.
You could say, oh yes, I believe this. However, there's nothing to prove it.
Okay, let's
just because he was part of an organization which was from his religion doesn't mean that he was groomed to become an SNP MSP.
It doesn't mean that he was. I'm just saying that the facts indicate that that was the case.
Well, I disagree with you. I don't have
okay. How about the idea of white privilege? That's the idea that people's white skin opens doors for them and lubricates their career and enables them to get to the top. What do you think? You're probably all for that, aren't you? You're all for believing in that.
I would say that if you look at the stats, right, so 14% of the UK's population is from...
That's fine. So you agree with that philosophy. That's fine. So what
listen. What I'm saying is that 14% of the UK's population is from an ethnic minority. Only 10% of our members of parliament are made up of ethnic minority MPs. Only 2 Muslims are in the Scottish Parliament. Only 7% of councillors...
That's not the point.
So it's clear to see that white people are given favouritism from the system, from the government, from political parties.
That's not the point. That's not the point I want to discuss. What I'm saying is you accept that's your belief. Okay, I understand what you believe. That's fine.
Well, that's fact. That's literal fact. I will send you the scientific study into this.
I know the fact. Right. Anyway, so I understand what you believe. This idea of white privilege. Okay. So the sort of conclusion I've come to about Humza Yousaf's individual career, you say that's really Islamophobic to come to that conclusion, whereas you're willing to use the same sort of reasoning, only not on individuals. You're willing to use it on a whole group of people.
It's not the same reasoning at all.
How can you object to me using it in a single particular case when you'll use it, shotgun style?
There's literal proof that says that the system of capitalism itself is racist.
Yeah, you're missing my point. Let me explain it again. Okay, with Humza Yousaf, I've suggested that his Islamic faith has opened doors for him and has accelerated his career. If you like, it's been a privilege for him. And you're saying that's Islamophobic. You shouldn't do that. I'm saying that what you do, you look at the entire white population in Britain and suggest that they are enjoying a privilege. So you're willing to use the same reasoning on like whatever, 60 million people, which I think is very unfair. But when I use it very targeted and for particular reasons on one person, you say that's unfair.
The fact is not that the doors are held open for white people, which they are. It's the fact that for minority groups, the doors aren't even there. They don't have the opportunities. Yes, Humza Yousaf in that case does.
My point is you're inconsistent.
It's not inconsistent. The fact of the matter is that ethnic minority groups don't have the opportunities which white people have. There's less opportunity for ethnic minorities. It's not that the white people are better and all this and they have a golden ticket. It's that the chances aren't even there. We need to bring the ethnic minorities up to the same standard that white people are at.
So you can look at society, you can see in your eyes that there's this injustice, that there's privilege for a certain type of people. I look at Humza Yousaf's life as one example, one individual. I look at his experience, his career, and I see in it that his Islamic faith has been a privilege for him. and you say I'm not allowed to.
Well, you're personally attacking him. That is having a go at him.
How?
For who he is and how he got where he is in his career.
But it's what he says. He says we need to make special efforts to get Muslims to the top. In other words, he wants there to be special treatment for Muslims.
Well,
so it's
yes,
not going to complain when I say you've had special treatment because you're a Muslim.
We should have special treatment to get more councillors, more MPs, more MSPs from ethnic minority backgrounds. The same way as we have been for women, who we're now almost there. We're still slightly behind on equal representation for women in the Scottish Parliament. So we need to do the same for ethnic.
I mean, you're completely contradicting yourself. You're saying that we should be taking steps to get more Muslims promoted in politics. We've got to make it so more Muslims get to the top. And I say, yeah, that's what's happened with Hamza.
No, what I'm saying is there should be more opportunities for ethnic minorities to get to the top.
Yeah, he was given more opportunities, that's for sure, yeah.
In one individual case, in which case the positive discrimination policies have worked. In that one case,
that's what I'm saying.
One case.
Yeah, we agree then. We agree on that then. There's been positive.
However, you're saying then that this is horrible and shouldn't have happened in the first place.
I don't think positive discrimination is a good idea. But my
yes, in which case you're saying that he is wrong and shouldn't be there at all. That opportunity shouldn't have existed.
No,
because that opportunity wouldn't have existed.
No. Well, what I'm saying is Hamza Yousaf has benefited, if you like, from positive discrimination. And he says that's what should happen. You say that's what should happen. I point it out and say that's what has happened. And then you say that's Islamophobic.
Because you're saying that has happened, but it shouldn't happen. You're saying that it shouldn't happen at all.
Yeah, there shouldn't be positive discrimination.
But why should it not happen? Why should it not happen?
Because I think that creates an unfair society. I mean,
but the society is already unfair.
Okay, we're
trying to make it more fair.
I think we can move on from Islam. Is that okay? Can we move on from Islamophobic? I think we've heard your case there. Have you got anything else on Islamophobic, or is that? Have you said what you've got to say there?
Yeah, sure.
Right, racist. Okay, why am I a racist, do you think?
Yes. Well, I think we've covered that already in the fact that you're normalizing it. And if you're normalizing it, then you are being racist. It's just as bad as being racist doing nothing about it.
Okay, I didn't say do nothing about it. I didn't condone it or whatever. I said it's something that is going to happen. That's not any sort of
but you're more than happy to say that that's Twitter and we should just ignore it. That rhetoric doesn't work.
Yeah, we've covered this earlier on. Okay, I wasn't saying.
Yeah, we've covered this.
Onto it. I was just saying, with some cases, the best thing is to ignore it. So that's your argument that I'm a racist. I mean, calling someone a racist is pretty tough, isn't it? That's quite an accusation. So you really feel that gives you evidence that I'm a racist, do you? You're justified in that charge.
That you're normalizing racism, yes.
No, you said it racist.
You're normalizing racism, therefore that is racism, yes.
Okay. Right, moving on to the last thing. You talked about another point, just before we go on to that. The last point I made in my video is that Hamza Yousaf got to the top as a Muslim because he wore the Muslim badge, but he doesn't actually have Muslim values. Okay, I've spoken to Muslims who say, Hamza Yousaf doesn't really promote Muslim values in the parliament. Because what most Muslims believe is quite socially conservative, and it's more similar to what I believe than what you believe. And so, in what sense? And I finished my video by saying, Muslims, if you want to bring your values into Scottish politics, because we think they're really good values and they're needed in Scotland, join the Scottish Family Party. We won't be embarrassed by your social conservatism. We will be saying, please speak about it, because we think that's what Scotland needs. Does that sound Islamophobic? Does that sound like an Islamophobic?
Well, actually, I went and spoke to all the Christians I know, actually, all but one Christian that I know, after I watched your video, and asked them to have a look at your policies and asked them if they feel they are Christian or at all Christian. And they all said that they wouldn't support them as a Christian, because they believe they're hateful, they're not welcoming, that doesn't support anything that the Bible teaches or their church teaches. So I don't believe that you can use that rhetoric and say that Humza Yousaf has political views. So what? He's allowed to have political views that maybe he doesn't want to follow his religious beliefs. So what? It's his own choice.
Okay, I'm not sure that answered the question at all. But my point was that we're saying to Muslims, I think there's a mainstream of Muslims in Scotland, that we think their values in many ways are in tune with ours. And so we would love more Muslims to get involved in the party. There's some Muslims involved in the Scottish Family Party already. We had a Muslim speaker at the conference. We're developing other links with Muslim groups. And so we really want to bring their voice into Scottish politics. And you're calling me Islamophobic.
Well, because of this video, yes. But the fact is that, yes, we need more Muslim voices in Scottish politics, and we can do that with positive discrimination. We can get more ethnic minority voices everywhere.
You don't want Muslim voices in politics. What you want?
Yes, I do.
You want people with a Muslim badge, with Muslim identity.
No.
You don't want Muslim values in politics. You don't want pro-life social conservatives, anti-feminist, promoting motherhood, against this LGBT messaging in schools. I mean, are they the Muslims you want in politics or not?
That's not necessarily Muslim values. I know Muslims that don't agree with that.
I'm saying that the mainstream of Muslims will think along those lines. Certainly a lot of them.
But can you prove that? Can you say that's how it is? Because if that was the case, we would have more representation for those sort of views in Parliament. But we don't. Because those opportunities are not there. We to have the opportunities there. Yes, if they disagree with me, I have no problem with them being represented in Parliament. It's their right to be in Parliament. Okay,
that's different questions. But the fact that I'm saying that in my experience, as I said, there's a lot of Muslims that agree with us, and we're inviting them into the party, and yet you still claim that I'm Islamophobic. I just think
in this video, you're Islamophobic. And according to myself and according to others I've spoke to.
Right, I think we can leave that there. And the other thing you said was about, I assume you, again, in the context of Humza Yousaf, as part of a subjugated and oppressed group.
Yes.
I mean, subjugated. That's a bit extreme, isn't it?
In British politics and in British society, ethnic minority groups are subjugated by the British government, by the Home Office, and by the Scottish government.
Don't you think that language is a bit hysterical? I mean, tell me what you mean by subjugation. I'm thinking like, apartheid and worse. Concentration. Well, tell me what you mean by subjugation.
The opportunities are not there because they're not given them. Technically speaking, we're all subjugated under the British monarchy. So having this monarchy and this government that has ruled an empire which bought slaves, which sold slaves, which caused genocides across the planet, and then we're just moving those values here. We're not giving people opportunities unless they are the majority.
Okay, so am I subjugated?
I would say you're subjugated under the British Empire, yes.
All right, okay, I never realised. I mean, subjugated sounded quite a terrible thing, but if I'm subjugated as well, then I don't think I need to worry about it too much. Just listen to your language there. I mean, are you a Marxist?
I wouldn't say I'm a Marxist, no. I would say I'm a socialist.
Right. I mean, would you divide society into oppressor and oppressed groups?
I would, yes. Yeah.
You would? Who are the
I would say that the rich 1% that rule the government, that have their fingers in everything that's going on, then yes, they rule society.
I would say the Green Party runs Scotland.
I would totally disagree. If we did, it would be very different.
But what the Green Party says one day, the SNP are saying a year later, the Conservatives are saying 3 years later.
That is definitely not true.
No? I mean, there's a compliment for the Green Party. I think the Green Party are the smartest operators in the Scottish Parliament because they know what they believe. They've got a pretty good IQ count in there, I have to say. And they argue passionately for what they believe. And on lots of issues, there's no one capable or willing to actually counter what they're saying. So they basically win every argument and just pull the political agenda in their direction. So the Greens lead, SNP, Lib Dems and Labour sort of trot on behind pretty closely, and the Conservatives roll along at the back trying to keep up.
I've worked in the Scottish Parliament, and I can assure you that is definitely not like that. The amount of discussions that we've had with the SNP in which they've just went, nope, we were not even talking about that. Or discussions where the Lib Dems will just sort of go, but that doesn't make sense. We don't understand that. But then we come to compromise. We come together and work together to actually make it. We have a minority. We have a minority government.
But the Greens pulling a bit, then the others come along. So there may be compromises along the way, but they're always being pulled along. I mean, I've heard Patrick Harvey say this himself.
I would say that's because our policies are right. We have scientific proof to prove that our policies are right.
Yeah, I say that's what happens. I say the Greens win all the arguments, and so ultimately they pull the other parties along with them. So I say that they're the smartest operators in the Scottish Parliament. It's compliment.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just one. I mean, you've thrown all sort of mud at me, and you've tried to justify that. I mean, just to finish, I think the Scottish Green Party is an extremist party. So let me try a few things on you. For example, the policy of allowing the killing of unborn children just before they're born. Is that not horrific?
It's not horrific at all. It's literally the same as it is across the world. There's scientific proof that this is fine. It's the mother's right. It is
that says it's okay to kill a baby just before it's born.
It is the childbearer's right to choose if they want to do that. That child has not been born. That child has not been born. It is their right if they want to abort that child.
We can come to that in a minute. You said it's scientific. What's the science behind this?
But the fact that the child isn't born. It is not a fully grown human yet.
Right. What? I don't recognise this as any sort of scientific theory.
But I will go and find. I will go and find after this call. I will go and find you the proof. But I don't have it on me, obviously.
That
the scientific consensus is that there is nothing wrong with abortion.
Science doesn't make moral pronouncements.
That's not moral.
Well, of course it is. How's it not moral?
The only reason it has become moral is because of people such as yourself who say it's wrong. It's just not. It's just a decision that the childbearer should have the right to make. If they're not in the place in their life, if they cannot afford to have the child, if they have been raped, or if they don't want that child, then they should have the right to get rid of that child.
Okay, so in terms of science, I mean, science does not make moral judgments, and there's no scientific support for the idea that a child becomes of, if you like, infinite value 5 minutes after it's born, but 5 minutes before it's born, it's of no value. There isn't a research paper in some scientific journal where they, got the microscopes out and discovered that, is there? That's not a scientific discovery.
Well, it's scientific that they are not a fully functioning human. They are not what we would describe as a human being.
Just before birth.
They are a fetus. Not just before birth. We're talking months before birth.
No, the Green Party is to allow abortion for any reason right up to birth.
Up until one day.
Whatever.
I'll go and have a look at the Green Party policy then. I'll point that out to you. But I would say that abortion is the childbearer's right. And as a man, as a gay man no less, that I have no real point in arguing this point because it doesn't affect me.
But sometimes you have to speak up on behalf of the voiceless and the most vulnerable in society.
Definitely.
Including unborn children.
I wouldn't say they necessarily... abortion, there's no point arguing this because we're just going to sit here going against each other for hours and hours and hours. Abortion is the childbearer's right.
Why? Why should one person be able to...
Because they are carrying it. It is part of them. It is attached to their body.
So what about Siamese twins? Can they choose to kill the other one?
Well, no, that's a different case. That's completely different. Right? They're alive.
So
they're born.
So attached to the body isn't the reason. What is the reason then?
they are not conscious. They are inside them. They are
not
just
conscious.
A fetus. They are a fetus. They're not a child.
Cognitive function,
they are not
the baby's cognitive function doesn't make a step change at the point of birth. Anyway, it's not okay to kill people who are not conscious. For example,
well, no, obviously not. But what I'm
it's
saying is the child bears right if they would like to abort that child. If that's what they want to do.
We don't normally say that one human has the right to kill another. So why should it?
Well, no, because it's not literally part of them. In no other case is that ever part of them. This is just going to go round and round. We're just going to be here forever.
I mean, the fact being part of. I mean, do you agree that the unborn child is human?
I would say they would become a human, yes. They are of human DNA, yes.
Right, well, right, so they're human?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you agree that the unborn child is alive?
To some extent, yes.
To some extent?
Well, they're not alive to the same extent that you and I are. Sorry? I would say that there's nothing wrong with worship.
Yeah, no, so what you're saying is, so we've got a human life, and you're saying one person should have the right to end a human life just whenever they want to. That's not normally our moral system, is it? So what's the difference here?
It's not a moral. I can't even argue this with you because you're just twisting everything that I say. All I'm saying is that it's the child bearer's right. I'm not going to argue this with you because it's neither of our decision to make.
Well, that's not the way.
If a child bearer wants to make that decision,
you know, if someone up the road is planning to murder their next door neighbor, I don't say nothing to do with me. I mean, it's not my
murder is different to abortion. Murder is different to abortion.
Why?
Let's just move on. I'm done discussing this.
Okay, that's fine. Shall we leave it there?
Sure, if you want. Yeah.
Right. That was really interesting. Thanks very much, Cameron, for being the first person to step into the hot seat. And who knows? Maybe you could come back again, or maybe we do it face to face when the lockdowns.
Yes,
so
potentially. Right.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Right. Thank you.
Right, good.